Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, January 6th, 2023, and today we are going to be talking about Kevin McCarthy and his current stance in the speakership election for the upcoming 118th Congress. Now, we've been seeing votes and a lot of discussion about this. My past two videos have been about Kevin McCarthy, but today actually provides a new, interesting twist on what we have seen under this speaker election, which has been a consistent failure by Kevin McCarthy. Now today he stands at his highest point ever in this House Speaker vote at 213 votes, 2 votes ahead of Representative Hakeem Jeffries. Then you have Representative Jordan and Hearn, who are receiving 7 votes combined, with 0 votes going towards the other branch, meaning that it is down from yesterday's defector vote of 21 down to just 7 Republicans who still are refusing to vote for Kevin McCarthy. Now, given the narrow majority in the House of Representatives for the GOP, Republicans and Kevin McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 seats when it comes down to the speakership vote. Should Democrats be voting in full force like they are now, 211 does actually decrease the threshold just slightly, but Kevin McCarthy can only afford to lose 4, because he needs 217 in order to reach the majority, and so far, he's lost 7. It gets very, very tricky because Kevin McCarthy is in this unique position where for the first time in over 150 years, we are reaching a 12th ballot. And today that 12th ballot occurred around noon and was something that Kevin McCarthy ended up losing, but he didn't lose it to the same extent. But what we're going to be doing is, rather than talking about the ramifications of this, that will be touched on a bit because there are some benefits by the Democrats and the anti-McCarthy Republicans that they are using this to capitalize on, to fundraise, to really make their base more extreme and angry at the Republican Party. And that's something that does need to be addressed. But generally speaking, we're going to be looking at the 7 main Republicans who are unwilling, even now, after a last-minute deal. Last evening, Kevin McCarthy met with many members of the House Freedom Caucus, many of his defector Republicans, and made a deal with them, wrote one up, and said, okay, you vote for me tomorrow, I get elected House Speaker, and this deal goes through. But unfortunately, 7 of them refused to budge. And we'll look at them right here. First, we have Representative Andy Biggs, a representative from Arizona who has been long seen as an extreme Republican, one that would be on the edge of being alt-right or considered to be similar to that. Lauren Boebert, a representative from Colorado, she's one of the most outspoken members of the House of Representatives on the Republican side, very, very well known nationwide, has never voted for McCarthy. Eli Crane from Arizona's 2nd District also never voted for McCarthy. We're finding here that he is holding out strong. Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, 2 people that have been really in high prominence recently when it's come down to the speakership vote. Looks like them both are going to hold out and voted for Jim Jordan this time around. And Andy Harris, Maryland's only Republican from the 1st District, a staunch member of the House Freedom Caucus, here voting for Jim Jordan again. None of these people have ever voted for Kevin McCarthy. And the reason why I think that's significant is because even with all of these votes for Byron Donalds from Florida's 19th District, even Byron Donalds himself in this vote decided to vote for McCarthy. He was one of the many that decided to flip over. You can see here that a lot of these M's here in this 12th tally mean a lot of them are no longer voting for other candidates and are set on having McCarthy as speaker. People like Dan Bishop, Josh Breachin, Michael Cloud, Andrew Clyde, Byron Donalds, Paul Gosar. That was a big one. That was a huge one, right? Gosar was never meant to vote for McCarthy, and here he is doing it, which was meant to be this big deal, trying to convince the other members of the House Freedom Caucus, but many of them are refusing to budge. Luna, Miller, Norman, Ogles, Perry, Rosendale voted for Hearn here, actually. I meant to mention that earlier. He sort of came out of nowhere. I really didn't think Matt Rosendale would be too much of an opponent to Kevin McCarthy, but he was consistently. Roy, South, Sparts, all of them are back in the McCarthy column, and it's very, very interesting, if you ask me. And, just looking at where we are, there are some Republicans here who did label themselves as never McCarthy, people that said in no reality would they vote for McCarthy for speaker. People like Donalds even, or not even Donalds, but more so in the middle of it, was really against it. But most notably Ralph Norman from South Carolina's 5th District. If his name rings a bell, it's probably because you've seen his election from 2017. He was in a special election, narrowly won his race, but still, was reelected in 2018, reelected in 2020. He ended up voting for McCarthy despite being one of those Republicans who were never Kevin's, meaning that they were never going to vote for Kevin McCarthy in any circumstance. But here they are. So you might be thinking, okay, McCarthy's at 213. What is it about these 7 Republicans that make them entirely unwilling? Or I guess in this case, you're having, some of them grouped in with her and some of them grouped in with Jordan. But generally speaking, they want the same thing. Generally speaking, they did not want to tack themselves onto this deal and rather are just completely pushing back against McCarthy. Well, we have to look into an article from the BBC. I mean, many news networks have decided to cover it, but looking at this question here, why these Republicans won't vote for Kevin McCarthy as U.S. House Speaker. And it comes down from the main core group of the 5 never Kevins, the people in December who said, I will not vote for Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. And 4 of them have decided to hold on to that promise, right? Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Bob Good, Matt Rosendale have all said, okay, I'm not going to vote for McCarthy. Ralph Norman, on the other hand, decided to vote for him in this House Speaker vote. But regardless, though, 4 out of the 5 never Kevins had always maintained this level of being against Kevin McCarthy. You also find that some of these Republicans, including a very outspoken one like Lauren Boebert, decided to meet with McCarthy before the Speaker vote had occurred and said, you need to strike a deal with me and other members that are unwilling to vote for you if you want to win the speakership on the first ballot. He refused. He walked out of the room. Lauren Boebert went to the national news media and said, I tried to work with Kevin McCarthy. It is clear he does not want to work with us, so therefore I will not be voting for him. So there are 4 people on this list that already were never Kevins. It looks like Andy Harris is going to join that rank as well, and it also looks like Eli Crane and Lauren Boebert are also going to join those ranks, because what we have heard from Representative Warren Davidson, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, or we can refer to it as the Freedom Caucus, whatever it might be, says that he believes McCarthy has flipped the maximum reachable number of Republicans who previously had turned away from McCarthy. Meaning that as we stand right now, it doesn't look so good for Kevin McCarthy. We're heading into a 13 ballot as we speak. We are heading right into full force into a brand new vote tally, and it will be interesting to see if any of these people turn away. But their reasonings are quite strong. They believe that Kevin McCarthy is too closely aligned with a broken system and will do little to change how Washington is governed. Mr. Biggs, or Andy Biggs, says, the American people want us to turn a page. They do not want excuses or performance art. They want actions and results. He says that Kevin McCarthy is the status quo. That is what the problem is here for many of these Republicans. It's not that they dislike Kevin McCarthy as a person, but they associate him too heavily with what they see as the swamp. They associate him as a career politician, and they're not exactly wrong. The problem for Kevin McCarthy is that because these people are so outspoken against him in their criticism, it is also pushing back against Republicans further down the line. Because these anti-McCarthy Republicans and Hakeem Jeffries have been fundraising off of this stalled House Speaker vote. I've seen ads come across my page on social media from the DCCC, from other Democratic organizations that are using this situation to raise money. And it honestly probably will work quite well. If you think about it, the American public is just hearing about how a dysfunctional Republican Party is entirely unable to nominate a leader after winning the midterms, after winning the 2022 House elections. And it is, in all honesty, embarrassing for the GOP. Because as it stands currently, they do have the votes for a speakership. They do have the means to elect Kevin McCarthy. The question is, will they elect Kevin McCarthy? And it just doesn't look super good. Bob Good himself said that McCarthy should withdraw from House Speaker. He's one of these original never Kevins. Again, that reminding number is that they need 4 votes in order to prevent Kevin McCarthy from becoming Speaker. And that's exactly what they're going to continue to do until they actually see some change or potentially a new Republican is nominated. You see, there aren't really that many other options, but there is a conversation. Could it be Steve Scalise? Could it be Elise Stefanik? These are the top 2 ranking Republicans before you reach Kevin McCarthy in the House of Representatives. Steve Scalise currently serves as the second in line. Looks like he's the minority whip And then Elise Stefanik recently actually took Liz Cheney's position as the chair of the House Republican Conference. So Liz Cheney was ousted over her anti-Trump sentiment, and Elise Stefanik was installed. But Kevin McCarthy, Stephen Scalise, Elise Stefanik are the names that are being circulated as a potential House Speaker. And it looks like if McCarthy doesn't get it, you might have to move over to somebody else. But the problem may still emerge. The problem is that these very few Republicans are holding out strong, even after the majority of their caucus defected from them and voted for McCarthy today. As was said by Representative Davidson, McCarthy likely has received the maximum reachable number. We'll know if that's true by the end of today. If the numbers don't budge again, Kevin McCarthy has told Fox News, has told everybody that they plan to work into the weekend to get a deal done because the next time they're going to vote will be on Monday. They plan to go ahead and, work together, try to find some general ground, have a consensus about who they want to be House Speaker. But at the end of the day, we are finding it to be such a dysfunctional relationship between these main Republicans and Kevin McCarthy that in the future, they may end up pushing back on him even further. Maybe he becomes speaker, but what happens when there's an extremely contentious House bill that needs to be passed by the GOP? Not only now, but should they retain the majority in 2024 and potentially have a president to run these bills by? These Republicans are showing Kevin McCarthy just how difficult it will be to pass any legislation without appeasing that section of the party. We talked about this in the past two videos, but that cannot be understated. It is not just the House Speaker vote that is going to be difficult. It will be quite literally every single vote from here on out that is contentious and that Republicans are the ones supporting. Because Kevin McCarthy can offset a few Republicans pushing back against him with some Democratic votes, should it be a bipartisan bill or a bill that was brought forth by the Democratic Party. Maybe some moderate Republicans can jump onto it. What we saw for gun control, or what we saw with infrastructure, what we saw with, whatever it might be, stimulus checks, things like that, right? Those are things that we can take into account, that we can consider to be Kevin McCarthy victories, even if it wasn't necessarily, supported by all members of his party. But if he is going to try to pass any type of legislation, and while I'm sure it will be shot down by the Senate, never signed by President Biden, Republicans are still going to try to get their agenda passed, because that's what you have to do when you're the party that's in the majority. You need to be effective, or voters will push against you. But the Republican Party, as it stands, moving beyond this vote, even if Kevin McCarthy becomes Speaker on Monday or later today, this is just the beginning. And we are going to see many more news articles, many more, mainstream media coverage about the House, because it's going to be so intensely drama heavy. And here's the thing. If Republicans are unhappy with him, if any of these 7 Republicans are unhappy with him, Kevin McCarthy has made concessions that involve lowering the number of House of Representatives members that can call an anti-recall speaker vote. Meaning if one day Lauren Boebert is upset with Kevin McCarthy, if she reluctantly votes for him, or somehow Kevin McCarthy gets the majority with all of these members voting present, which could happen because the Democrats are at 211 because of a death that occurred late 2022, and also because David Trone was unable to vote in this first speaker vote, being at 211 to 213. If all of these 7 Republicans say, I'm just going to vote present so Kevin McCarthy can get the majority, that can happen. That can absolutely happen. And it would benefit McCarthy. McCarthy would be able to win if these Republicans decided to vote present. But right now, if they decide to vote for somebody else, it's going to hold up the speaker vote. So let's say, in a good reality for Kevin McCarthy, they vote present. You are going to find that in the future, should Kevin McCarthy become speaker, any of these Republicans could say, Lauren Boebert was the example, could say, I want to remove Kevin McCarthy as speaker, input somebody else. The 4 never Kevins will reemerge, and that's 5 votes to remove him as speaker. Guess what? Here's the thing. All of the Democrats are going to say yes. 213 plus 5 is 218. An exact number necessary to remove him as speaker. So there will be a possibility in the future or later down the line that McCarthy could be removed. And that's something that also should be a very, very daunting thing, because if McCarthy pisses off just any one person, he could see this push and pull away from him. I don't imagine that it would be used super often. I don't imagine that we're going to be in turmoil for the next few weeks. I don't think it's going to extend beyond just a few more ballots. But what I do think is that this is an indicator. It's a warning sign to Kevin McCarthy. And if these Republicans continue to hold out, and if Representative Warren Davidson is correct that this is the maximum reachable number, Kevin McCarthy still may never be Speaker. I think that he will be. I'm holding strong with my belief that he will find a way to either get these people to vote present or to vote for him. It's going to take a lot. It's already taken a week and maybe a few more days, depending on where these Republicans stand after today's votes. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2022 post-election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.